Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyber Practice episode 15. Today, I'll be demonstrating data obfuscation and how organizations uses it to reduce the exposure of sensitive information. We'll briefly discuss the concept, see it in action through a live demonstration, and then wrap up with a few key takeaways. Let's get started. What is data obfuscation? Data obfuscation is the process of hiding and disguising information so it's more difficult for unauthorized users to understand. The goal is to reduce readability and limit exposure while still allowing authorized users to recover the original information when needed. To better understand why organizations use obfuscation, let's look at some of the common use cases. What is data obfuscation? Organizations use data obfuscation to reduce unnecessary exposure to sensitive information. It's commonly used in training environments, demonstrations, development systems, and testing scenarios where realistic data is needed but direct visibility should be limited. That brings us to techniques organizations use to obfuscate data. There are several techniques organizations use to obfuscate information. Examples include character substitution, data scrambling, format preserving obfuscation, and Base64 encoding. For today's demonstration, we'll use Base64 encoding because it clearly shows how information can be transformed into less readable format while remaining recoverable. We'll start with plain text data that can be read immediately. Next, we'll apply Base64 encoding to transfer that information into a less understandable format. Finally, we'll decode the information and verify the original data can be restored. During today's demonstration, we'll review a customer data file, apply Base64 encoding, analyze the obfuscated output, then recover the original information. This allows us to see the complete obfuscation process from beginning to end. The demonstration will take place inside a Kali Linux virtual machine using a controlled lab environment and sample customer information. This allows us to safely demonstrate the concept without exposing real-world sensitive data. Let's switch over to the live demonstration and get started. To begin, I'll navigate to the project directory that contains the files we'll be working with during this demonstration. Since the files have already been prepared, we'll focus on security concepts rather than spending time creating them during this presentation. Let's start by looking at the customer information file. As you can see, this file contains information that would typically be considered sensitive. We have a customer name, an email address, a credit card number, and an account number. Right now, this information is stored in plain text, meaning anyone with access to the file can immediately read and understand the contents. This type of direct visibility is exactly what organizations try to reduce when handling sensitive data. Next, we'll apply Base64 encoding to transfer the information to a less readable format. This command reads the original file and creates a new file containing an encoded version of the data. It's important to note that Base64 is an encoding method, not encryption. However, it gives a simple way to demonstrate how information can be transformed and concealed from casual viewing. Now let's view the encoded file. Notice that the information is no longer immediately recognizable. The customer details have been transformed into encoding characters that are difficult to understand at first glance. This demonstrates the primary purpose of obfuscation, reducing readability and limiting exposure. While the information is concealed, authorized users can still recover original context when necessary. Let's verify by decoding the obfuscated file. As expected, the original information has been restored. The customer name, email address, credit card number, and account number all match the original file. This demonstrates one of the defining characteristics of obfuscation, and information is transferred into less readable format while remaining recoverable. What this exercise highlights is both the value and the limitations of obfuscation. Obfuscation can reduce unnecessary exposure and support privacy efforts in development environments, training labs, demonstration, and testing systems. However, because information can be recovered relatively easy, obfuscation should never be viewed as a replacement for encryption, authentication, or access controls. Instead, it serves as an additional layer within a broader defense in depth strategy. Now that we've completed the demonstration, let's review the workflow one final time. We started with plain text information, transformed it using Base64 encoding, reviewed the obfuscated output, and then recovered the original data. This process demonstrates how obfuscation can reduce exposure while still allowing authorized users to access information when necessary. With that in mind, let's wrap up with the key takeaways. Let's conclude with a few key takeaways. Data obfuscation helps reduce exposure by transmitting sensitive information into a less readable format. It supports privacy objectives and contributes to a layered security strategy, but it should not be viewed as a replacement for encryption or access controls. The key lesson is that obfuscation can help reduce unnecessary visibility while still allowing authorized users to recover information when needed.
Thank you for watching Cyber in Practice. If you enjoyed this demonstration, stay tuned for future Cyber in Practice episodes.